The only hangar here at one of Illinois' oldest airports is destroyed. Behind me, you can see one fire truck remains on the scene. The excavator just arrived to push down some of the rubble to go through the hot spots. He also told me if things don't start to dry out in these cornfields, those farmers could be delayed even further. Right now, they're seeing delays of 2 to 6 weeks behind schedule. Is that this did start with a chase in LeClaire. I'm going to step out of the way and show you what we are seeing. We are on Prophetstown Road, just outside of Rock Falls, about 5 miles. And we do know that the soft lockdowns at the other schools here in town have also been lifted. There was never a threat. These emails we obtained, we found the city detailed some concerns more than a day before, trying to keep the water from coming up any further, and that barrier broke. These changes are more proactive than reactive. The superintendent says that he wants to get ahead of any issues that might become worse after some recent crowd control problems. Listen closely. Keep listening. And you may be able to hear, well, not much on River Drive. One of Davenport's busiest roads is empty. Floodwaters have again shut parts of it down.
I don't know what to think,
That's Front Street Brewery owner Tim Baldwin. His business has been closed for going on 7 months. More than 12 feet of flood water filled his building after a temporary HESCO barrier gave way during a record-setting flood back in April. And now, with River Drive closed again, traffic going by his soon-to-be reopened business has to find a detour.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Did not expect to show up on another Monday morning and see the roads closed and water on the streets.
Baldwin is over the flooding and ready for some dry weather as crews work to get the brewery back up and running.
I mean, I love the river and, we love the view, but this is just, it's just too much.
Since the barrier breach and the closure of Front Street, Baldwin has lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. He's hoping to open in the next couple of weeks as he deals with more flooding.
We're as prepared as we can be.
And he hopes the sound of traffic will break the silence before his business reopens.
We just hope that when we do open, people will be able to get here, find a place to park, and come enjoy it.
It's been really hard. It's been horrific for us.
Nearly 1 year, 365 days of emotion, 8,670 hours of hope. Corey Harrell's grandmother is hopeful her grandson's killer will be caught.
There's not a day that doesn't go by where we don't think about Corey or pray for justice for Corey.
October 31st, 2018, Harrell is gunned down in the middle of the morning just outside of Moline City Hall. Detectives have spent countless hours working the case. They followed up on several leads.
Our work on the murder of Corey Harrell Jr. is not done. To date, the perpetrators have not been brought to justice, and that is not acceptable.
With the help of the public, Crime Stoppers is offering a $20,000 reward. Chief Darren Galt with Moline Police hopes it will bring in the tip that cracks the case.
We will not stop investigating this case until those who are responsible, those who are still out on the street and took Corey's life, are captured and held responsible.
The relentless effort by detectives is comfort for Harrell's family. Corey's now 16-month-old son, the glue that holds the family together. His cousin, the Reverend Tyson Parks III, prays daily for someone who knows something to come forward.
I don't believe in that snitching. It's called justice, and it's putting yourself in someone else's shoes, because this could easily happen to anybody.
And as time passes, the loss of Corey doesn't get easier, but the conviction to catch his killer grows stronger.
None of us are exempt or immune to gun violence. It's something that is plaguing all of our communities.
This needs to stop. All this senseless killing, people pulling out guns, people, whatever way people are dying nowadays, it doesn't make any sense. There's no respect for life anymore.
A stop along the side of the highway, a dangerous place for first responders, tow truck drivers, and anyone forced to stop.
Life or death.
It's why the tow trucks at Dittmer Service in Davenport rarely hit the highway. The danger's just too much. Manager Billy Dittmer knows from firsthand experience.
Been out there before where no one gets over, and it's risk isn't really worth the reward.
Not moving over in both Iowa and Illinois is against the law. But the law doesn't mean drivers are following it. So far in 2019, Illinois law enforcement have written more than 5,800 tickets to violators. Compare that to 728 between January and October of last year. And while Dittmer's team doesn't make it a habit to provide highway help, they do tend to answer the call once or twice a year.
And those we regret doing every year. So it's just a certain time, and it's just not worth it.
The biggest problem, they say, is drivers are not paying attention. Distracted driving is one of the most common reasons for car accidents.
Everyone goes way over the speed limit, number one. I mean, and obviously people don't get over, or you have two semis that are traveling along at the same speed and can't get along.
And while Dittmer isn't on the side of the highways often, he does have a message to all drivers.
Please get over.
A plea so everyone gets home safely.
2337.
Patrolling the streets
Are you still at the PD?
is not very common these days for Sergeant Tony Frankowski.
Yeah, 25 with you there.
But when he does, it is a task that gets his adrenaline going and his mind running.
Usually I'm thinking about what I'm going to do on the call, if I'm going to separate people, what I'm going to do. I think about the call, but always in the back of my mind is, my family.
He knows about the risks that come with the job, and he also knows that everyone deals with them differently. For Sergeant Frankowski, it's through song.
10 o'clock, and I'm late, rushing out the door. Just wanted a few more minutes with my family of four.
So I started looking for inspiration that way about my family, my wife and my two kids back home, and trying to implement them into a song, as well as the guys around us, around me at work.
Grab my gear and head on out.
This song,
Streets once more. I walk that line, I walk that line, I walk that thin blue line.
Thin Blue Line, a reminder.
Holding that thin blue line is not always super happy. It's about, there's ups and downs, there's differences of what guys are feeling, what family members are feeling, what the people who are dealing with are feeling.
I walk that thin blue line.
A musician since 15, Frankowski wrote the song and played the guitar. He also enlisted the help of another sergeant, Josh Allen. He's on the drums.
Call comes out on the radio.
Talking about just a day in the life of a police officer, the mention of a fallen officer really kind of brings things into perspective, I think.
The video was produced by Tavion Johnson of East Side Sounds. It's been posted online for just over a day and seen by thousands.
I mean, support's been awesome. I couldn't have imagined this.
He's gonna get another hit.
To see this kind of response really shows that there is a huge force behind the community that has a strong support for police officers.
It is a song
I walk that thin blue line.
with a message for all, created by men and women willing to give all for all.
For mankind, and I don't mind. It's back to the grind.
Each time that they hit the streets.
Lost another brother today.
Now, nationwide, there have been 44 officers killed in the line of duty this year. There were 163 killed in the line of duty last year. Now, both sergeants say that they hope the video can bridge a gap and show people that they are human and have feelings too. And Sharon, the sergeant, told me today that it took them about 1 month to complete this video. Well, David, 2 months ago, this is what downtown Davenport looked like after that HESCO barrier failed, allowing the Mississippi River to flood into 2-block radius of downtown. Business owners were only given hours notice of a possible failure, but in these emails we obtained, we found the city detailed some concerns more than a day before.
It's very frustrating, you know. It's a little hurtful.
A moment of frustration from Ruby's Beer Bikes and Brats owner Chris Torres as he learned City of Davenport staff knew this was a possibility hours before city staff alerted businesses throughout downtown.
It's frustrating to see that they didn't get out the warning more and letting the people know that there's a chance that this could happen, and you should be prepared.
TV6 exclusively obtained emails dating back 2 weeks before the barrier breach. In those emails, we learned city officials started expressing concerns 26 hours before the temporary HESCO barrier gave way. The first sign of concern TV6 found was communicated from an employee with the Parks and Rec Department after a request from Public Works for help with sandbagging. A supervisor sent an email to staff at 1:20 the day before the breach with the subject line "flood emergency." In the body of that email, the supervisor writes, in part, floor waters are rising more rapidly than predicted and the HESCO barrier walls downtown are subject to waters overflowing them. However, in a press conference the next morning, city staff did not use the words flood emergency. Instead, when asked about the durability of the barriers, they said this.
We have never had them up for this length of time, but we are actually adding sand in behind them to reinforce as well. So we're beefing it up in addition to adding to the top.
Less than 4 hours after that statement from Public Works Director Nicole Gleason, the emergency planner from the Scott County Emergency Management Agency sent an email at 1:27. 2 hours before the barrier would fail, it was sent to city staff, including the police chief and members of the fire department. It said trained weather spotters reported the HESCO barriers on the southeast side of Davenport appear that they will be breached, fell shortly. It goes on to say that Davenport Public Works has reported that the wall has not been breached. It also says that nothing actionable is needed at this time. About that time, businesses say they were alerted about a possible breach, but were not told that it was imminent. One business we talked to said they were never warned, but instead told TV6 they evacuated after noticing the railroad packing up a day before the failure.
We never got a warning. Had we been close to the river, there's a large potential that again, people could have got hurt.
20 minutes after the email from the emergency planner, the city of Davenport sent a press release to the media saying the city was monitoring the integrity of the flood barriers. They also asked the public to avoid areas of downtown south of 3rd Street and all other areas close to the riverfront until later this afternoon when rain subsides. TV6 showed the emails to some of those downtown business owners, including Torres. We explained who the emails were sent between, but allowed the business owners to read them in their entirety. This is how Torres reacted as he read the email from the Emergency Management Agency. You seem frustrated.
It is frustrating, to know that there was communication that was being delivered between the city that wasn't getting addressed to the businesses downtown.
30 minutes before the barrier broke, at 2:57, Communications and Preparedness Director Robin Dunn sends Public Works Director Nicole Gleason an email saying, in part, Public Works staff continues to monitor the integrity of flood protection along the riverfront. But she never addressed the email citing an imminent breach. That email from Dunn to Gleason goes on to say, the flood walls along River Drive between Perry and Betchel Park is showing some signs of fatigue. Affected property owners and tenants have been notified. Then, at 3:30, the breach. Front Street owner Tim Baldwin was standing outside when it happened.
Well, of course, it would have been nice to have advance warning, just like anybody would like to have had more warning. We could have maybe prepared better. We could have maybe removed things from our building.
Baldwin's longtime business was quickly full of water. He believes the city did what it could with the knowledge at hand, but thinks the ball was dropped. We showed him the emails as well and asked for his response.
It sounds to me like probably not enough communication between everybody that was in the know to really understand the severity of what was about to happen. I mean, it's one thing to have, the firemen and police going door to door several hours before the breach, but maybe, let us make that decision in the future if you've got information 26 hours in advance so that we could maybe make preparation.
Back at Ruby's, owner Chris Torres said the knowledge learned from these emails is disappointing. Since the flood of 19, Torres has decided to take on a new venture set to open next year, and downtown Davenport won't be considered as a location.
I just can't see bringing it to downtown Davenport unless there'd have to be a lot of changes and a lot of good secure plans in line for the downtown area and what they would be doing to support a place, especially during a time of disaster.
A decision made, the result of what some say is a lack of communication in an emergency situation.
We are what draw people here. This is what brings people to downtown, is our businesses.